things I think while I lie awake and contemplate tonight are wearing me out. Well, maybe tomorrow the world will wake and get it right, but I have my doubts, yeah. During the day, well, I design machines of war that scream through the sky. As I, for one, I like to go to bed free at night under these stars and stripes. And I have my doubts that we're coming out. Yes, I have my doubts, and I have my doubts that we'll make it back out. Yes, I have my doubts, but I wind you up and pull the cord until you're spun right out, and I don't understand. Roll the dice and raise the price to feed the machine's mouth. Call it the progress of man. And I have my doubt that we're coming out. Yes, I have my doubt. And I have my doubt that we'll make it back out. And I have my doubts, so I'll drink my stuff and raise some hell and shoot my guns to the end of my time. You can have the booze and go to hell and take the guns, but I know they won't be mine. That we're coming out. Yes, I have my doubts, and I have my doubts that we'll make him back up. Yes, I have my doubts. So we're all messed up and out of touch. Let's text someone who's in the other room. So don't wonder why we don't say hi or know anyone. I might as well move to the moon. So maybe I'm wrong, but I hope that I'm wrong. So maybe I'm wrong, but I hope that I'm wrong. The things I think while I lie awake and contemplate tonight are wearing me out.
Proverbs 30. The words of Vulgar, the son of Jakeh, even the prophecy. The man spake unto Ithiel, even unto Ithiel and Ukal. Surely I am more brutish than any man, and have not the understanding of a man. I neither learned wisdom, nor have the knowledge of the holy. Who hath ascended up into heaven, or descended? Who hath gathered the wind in his fists? Who hath bound the waters in a garment? Who hath established all the ends of the earth? What is his name? And what is his son's name, if thou canst tell? Every word of God is pure. He is a shield unto them that put their trust in him. Add thou not unto his words, lest he reprove thee, and thou be found a liar. 2 things have I required of thee, Deny me them not before I die. Remove far from me vanity and lies. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with food convenient for me. Lest I be full and deny thee and say, Who is the Lord? Or lest I be poor and steal, and take the name of my God in vain. Accuse not a servant unto his master, lest he curse thee, that thou be found guilty. There is a generation that curseth their father, and doth not bless their mother. There is a generation that are pure in their own eyes, and yet is not washed from their filthiness. There is a generation, oh, how lofty are their eyes, and their eyelids are lifted up. There is a generation whose teeth are as swords, and their jaw teeth as knives, to devour the poor from off the earth, and the needy from among men. The horse leech hath 2 daughters, crying, Give, give. There are 3 things that are never satisfied, yea, 4 things say not, It is enough. The grave, and the barren womb, the earth that is not filled with water, and the fire that saith not, It is enough. The eye that mocketh at his father, and despiseth to obey his mother, the ravens of the valley shall pick it out, and the young eagles shall eat it. There be 3 things which are too wonderful for me, yea, 4 which I know not. The way of an eagle in the air, the way of a serpent upon a rock, the way of a ship in the midst of the sea, and the way of a man with a maid. Such is the way of an adulterous woman. She eateth, and wipeth her mouth, and saith, I have done no wickedness. For 3 things the earth is disquieted, and for 4 which it cannot bear. For a servant when he reigneth, and a fool when he is filled with meat, for an odious woman when she is married, and an handmaid that is heir to her mistress. There be 4 things which are little upon the earth, but they are exceeding wise. The ants are a people not strong, yet they prepare their meat in the summer. The conies are but a feeble folk, yet make they their houses in the rocks. The locusts have no king, yet go they forth all of them by bands. The spider taketh hold with her hands, and is in kings' palaces. There be 3 things which go well, yea, 4 are comely in going. A lion which is strongest among beasts, and turneth not away for any. A greyhound, and he-goat also, and a king against whom there is no rising up. If thou hast done foolishly in lifting up thyself, or if thou hast thought evil, lay thine hand upon thy mouth. Surely the churning of milk bringeth forth butter, and the wringing of the nose bringeth forth blood. So the forcing of wrath bringeth forth strife.
Good evening. It is Wednesday, October 29th, 2014. This is your host, Mike Callahan, and welcome to the Watchman News. It's been a little while since I've done the news and held my Bible in my hands, and a lot of days anymore I don't go over the daily Bible chapter or even the actual news stories that I do until I do the news, because I want the same effect that my listeners have when first hearing it. And that there was just something about that right from the beginning made me reach for my Bible. I keep it right here under my desk. And, some people might call that weakness, and I call it strength. And I know with this, I can get through anything, I can do anything, I can achieve anything, and most importantly, I can love. I can always find love. Not that I have a problem with that. But anyway, we do have a little bit for the news. There's a lot of craziness in Ebola news. It's like it builds up. There's and we have talked about this in the hangout, the Saving the Truth movement hangout. We've talked about how it has spells to where it'd build up and it'd be quiet, and it'd build up and then it'd be quiet, and it just seems like it is really starting to come to the forefront again. And and I've seen members in that hangout making comments, and I'm in full agreement with them. Boy, after this election is over, is when we're really going to get slammed. So anyway, though, let's go ahead and get suspicious observers out of the way, and then I've got some pretty crazy Ebola news for you. So without further ado, here is Ben Davison.
Good morning, folks. I assume by now you've heard. The latest cargo launch on an Antares rocket has failed. Luckily, there were no humans on board, but this still counts as a major launch disaster, a major setback. Just watch. The explosion could be seen for miles, and the material burned for quite some time. Kicking to space weather, we are coming to the end of our solar uptick. The large spot announced its arrival with CMEs before cresting onto the Earth-facing disk, but failed to create any of those during a spate of flaring that included multiple X-class flares and more than a dozen that broke into M range. The largest sunspot in 25 years is about to exit the Earth-facing disk. We have seen a major decrease in flaring activity the last 2 days, still watching for some departing shots before it disappears, but we're also focused on the plasma filaments presenting an eruption threat right now. Watch the corona, top left there. First good-sized CME in days comes not from the sunspots, but from a filament releasing behind the limb. CME is not Earth-directed at all, but it does show how the filaments can be just like sunspots in terms of coronal mass ejections. Solar wind metrics are calm, but some swirling magnetic indicators suggest the sector boundary is close. We're already taking some magnetic instability. The boundary, the sunspot number drop-off to come, and 2 Earth-facing coronal holes re-ramp the earthquake factors for our first minor watch since the planets lined up 2 weeks ago. The southern opening is still showing as much more powerful, although the north is gaining a bit of force. Coronal field still pinching the northern opening. Well, it looks like it's blocking the south a bit as well. Major cyclone. North Indian Ocean. This has deadly written all over it. It's heading right for western India and southern Pakistan. Alerts on high. We've had 2 unusual location rumbles the last day. I'd like to note that they reside with our developing storms in the area. This to be named soon, and the other just forming in the wake of the seismicity. Still got the moisture flow off the Pacific there, aided now by a heat flow off the western side of high pressure in the breadbasket. Meanwhile, the big low still regulates now from eastern Canada. Convergence and wind drive should be readily apparent here, along with the NOAA alerts for this evening, east, midwest, and the northwest. Try to notice the convergence cutting atop the mainland coastline of Europe there, while clearly the southeastern low refuses to budge or weaken substantially. Purple shows our top watch zones this evening. Down under, watch the moisture flow we've eyed now curl around New Zealand for a small convergence. Weaker but larger convergences can be seen in northeastern and out to the west. That's where you see the 3 alert zones this evening. Got some great shots of our star to close today. It's 6:05 a.m. Eastern Time, 5:05 a.m. Central. That's the news. Eyes open. No fear. Be safe, everyone.
Thanks again to Ben Davidson. The link for that particular video is down in the About tab, as usual. That is, as long as I don't have an extremely day and don't get the links down there. Yeah, so it's a good thing that the sunspots are starting to settle down a little bit, and there's not crazy activity going on with that at the moment. So let's go ahead and get on with the Ebola news because this is kind of crazy, actually. So now it seems as if it's coming out that Ebola spreads like the flu. Ebola spreads through coughing and sneezing, much like influenza, which, by the way, we've been saying this for a long time now, quite a long time now. It just makes no sense that people aren't asking even more questions as to why they are just now saying it. Anyway, Ebola spreads through coughing and sneezing, much like influenza, which most experts agree is spread mainly by droplets made when people with flu cough, sneeze, or talk, according to the documents by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Now, this is something that Jason did such a good job of getting the proper understanding. He defined for us the difference between something that is airborne and something that is aerosolized. This is more or less telling you that it's aerosolized. And they were avoiding saying that from the very beginning. They would say that it wasn't airborne, but they wouldn't say that it was aerosolized. Well, now from all kinds of different documents, including some military documents, state that it could actually be airborne. But let's get on with this report. A new CDC flyer describing the droplet spread of Ebola, which happens when germs traveling inside droplets that are coughed or sneezed from a sick person, is nearly identical to the CDC's description of influenza, which states most experts think that flu viruses are spread mainly by droplets people get when people with flu cough, sneeze, or talk. Droplet spread happens when germs traveling inside droplets that are coughed or sneezed from a sick person enter the eyes, nose, or mouth of another person, the CDC Ebola flyer states. Which was released on Monday, droplets travel short distances, less than 3 feet, from one person to another. A person might also get infected by touching a surface or object that has germs on it and then touching their mouth or nose. Droplet spread diseases include plague and Ebola. Wow. And they got a little picture there if you want to check that out. Similarly, on a webpage entitled How Flu Spreads, the CDC reveals the droplet spread of the flu is very similar to that of Ebola. Most experts think that flu viruses are spread mainly by droplets made when the people with flu cough, sneeze, or talk, the CDC states. These droplets can land in the mouths or noses of people who are nearby. That doesn't sound appealing, huh? Or possibly be inhaled into the lungs. Less often, a person might also get flu by touching a surface or object that has flu virus on it and then touching their own mouth or nose. So in summary, the droplet spread of Ebola is almost identical to that of influenza, according to the CDC, which also released new guidelines on Monday stating that people are at risk for contracting Ebola if they are in the same room for a brief period of time with an Ebola patient. The new guidelines also list fatigue as a potential Ebola symptom, while individuals who had direct contact, such as a handshake, with an Ebola victim prior to symptom onset in the victim are also now considered a risk, suggesting that the CDC is entertaining the possibility that the virus can be transmitted even from victims who have yet to display symptoms, Paul Joseph Watson wrote. It's interesting to note that the CDC's How Flu Spreads webpage also states you may be able to pass on the flu to someone else before you even know you are sick. U.S. Army scientists demonstrated that airborne transmission of Ebola was possible at lower temperatures and humidity than that normally present in sub-Saharan Africa in a 1995 study. And they say the high temperatures and humidity present in Africa may have been a factor limiting aerosol transmission of Ebola virus in the African epidemics. So, they're now finally starting to at least admit that part of it. And I thought I saw when I was on the site earlier that Jason had up an article. He's always putting new articles up. Always a place to get the latest information. Good place to go. Of course, I'm sure everybody knows about the 5-year-old. I did a story about that. I know I saw an article on here. This is what I just read here. I didn't know he actually had that on there. Like I say, he keeps up on it. He does a very, very good job at that. So, wow. I know I thought I saw it on his where it talked about how long. Here we go. Yeah, test reveal Ebola can survive on some surfaces for up to 2 months. Wow. Like I say, he's up on these. And when did he post that? I don't see the thing when he posted that. However, he keeps up on it very, very well. I'll go ahead and read that because it's just as important as everything else. And this is, I didn't have the link down there for this particular article, but it's just on the Saving the Truth Movement site. The number of confirmed Ebola cases passed the 10,000 mark over the weekend, despite efforts to curb its spread. And while the disease typically dies on surfaces within hours, research has discovered it can survive for more than 7 weeks under certain conditions. During tests, the UK's Defence Science and Technology Laboratory found that the Zaire strain will live on samples stored on glass at low temperatures for as long as 50 days. This family includes the Zaire Ebola virus, which was first identified in 1976 and is the most virulent. Sudan Ebola virus, Thai forest Ebola virus, Ebola reston, and the Bundabungo Ebola virus. Sorry, I had to do it. I'm going to be going around the rest of the night now just so everybody knows, going Bundabungo. The most recent species discovered in 2008. For their 2010 paper, The Survival of Filoviruses in Liquids on Solid Substrates and in a Dynamic Aerosol, Sophie Smither and her colleagues tested 2 particular filoviruses on a variety of surfaces. These were like the Lake Victoria, where did I get these names, right? I hope it's, wow. These were the Lake Victoria Marburg virus and the Zabov. Each was placed into guinea pig tissue samples and tested for their ability to survive in different liquids and on different surfaces at different temperatures. Over a 50-day period, when stored at 4 degrees, that's 40 degrees Celsius, that's 39 Fahrenheit, which we're coming into those temperatures now. By day 26, by day 26, viruses from 3 of the samples were successfully extracted. Zabov or Zabob or potato on the glass sample and Marv on both glass and plastic. By day 50, the only sample from which the virus could be recovered was the Zabob. Sorry. From tissue or glass. This study has demonstrated that filoviruses are able to survive and remain infectious for extended periods when suspended with liquid and dried onto surfaces, explain the researchers. Data from the study extend the knowledge on the survival of filoviruses under different conditions and provide a basis with which to inform risk assessments and manage exposure. The researchers do stress that these tests were carried out in a controlled lab environment and not in the real world, but published their findings to highlight the survival rates. Last week, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention updated its Ebola guidelines following the rise in infections. So it's a very good article there. He's got a lot of good articles. Always go there to catch up the latest. I do the show 1 hour a day. So, by the time that you hear it from me, it's already out there. You can always go to just go to the links in the About tab. You can see the flash News Network. You can see Heidi's page. You can see, I've got to get her blogger page down there. You can see Alternative News Gather. Very good sources for information. They keep their pages updated during the day, so you don't necessarily have to wait for my show and hear my lovely opinions or pronunciations for that matter. But anyway, let's get on with other Ebola news, which I don't know what's scary, actually, the Ebola disease or what I'm going to talk about now. Insurance companies have started writing Ebola exclusions into policies. Yeah, weren't we supposed to, this whole Obamacare thing, everything was supposed to be pretty roses, unicorns, rainbows, and all that good stuff, and everything, pre-existing conditions and all that. And my goodness, one of the worst plagues in modern history, if I can call it that. I don't know if I can fairly call it a plague, but in the modern history, and insurance companies like, nope, ain't doing it. Anyway, as fear of Ebola infection spreads to developed economies, U.S. and British, you got to figure it's always going to be U.S. and Britain. Insurance companies have begun writing Ebola exclusions into standard policies to cover hospitals, event organizers, and other businesses vulnerable to local disruptions. As a result, new policies and renewals will become costlier for companies opting to insure business travel to West Africa or to cover the risk of losses from quarantine shutdowns at home, industry officials told Reuters. What underwriters are doing at the moment is that they're generally providing quotes, either excluding or including Ebola, and it's much more expensive if Ebola is included, said Gary Flynn, an event cancellation broker at Jardine Lloyd Thompson Group, PLC in London. While Ebola has killed more than 4,500 people in West Africa, and other diseases such as influenza are arguably more likely to cause measurable harm in the West, the arrival of a few isolated Ebola cases in Western countries has focused their insurers' minds on the virus's potential to cause damage. Yeah, forget people. The impact on liability insurance has been limited. In the United States, workers' compensation covers medical care and lost income for those who fall ill at work. Because such policies are regulated at state level, Ebola exclusions are unlikely. Some property and casualty insurers, however, are considering Ebola before writing or renewing policies. ACE Ltd said on Wednesday that its global casualty unit, which offers coverage for U.S.-based companies whose employees travel or that have operations abroad, was using a policy endorsement to exclude Ebola on a case-by-case basis during the underwriting process on new policies and renewals. It said it was taking into account the risk posed by Ebola to clients who travel to and have operations in African countries with potentially higher risk exposure. I'm telling you, it's coming here. It's already here, but I mean, it's going to be widespread. Others are introducing new products tailored for Ebola. Get your Ebola insurance right here. Probably the biggest issue coming up is business interruption, said Tony DeFelice, Managing Director of Aon Risk Solutions National Casualty Practice in the United States. A business interruption could be anything from the loss of key employees to sickness to the quarantine of an airliner or cruise ship used by a suspected patient suffering from Ebola or any other serious infectious disease. But many property and business interruption policies are triggered only by direct physical damage to property. Insurance broker Marsh wrote this month in a note on Ebola. This means that without special provisions, for example, manuscripted wording to broaden coverage, healthcare providers, property insurance, and BI policies would likely not be triggered based solely on the presence of Ebola, Marsh said. Miller Insurance Services, LLP, and William Gallagher Associates last week launched the first product to insure hospitals against losses from any shutdown made necessary by Ebola quarantine, teaming up with Lloyd's of London underwriter ARC Syndicate. More could follow. Aon PLC has created an Ebola task force. They don't need a czar too, really? To monitor the outbreak and help clients prepare for potential risks. JLT Friends said the cost of the insuring an event against Ebola would be about triple the amount of normal cancellation insurance if the venue was in a region not known to be affected by the virus. He said organizers would pay about 0.1% of potential revenue from an event for insurance, excluding Ebola coverage. Including Ebola, the cost rises to about 0.3%. No events have yet been canceled in Britain or the United States as a result of Ebola. Only 3 cases have been diagnosed in the United States to date and none in Britain. But concern has been growing and Ebola has moved to the forefront of the U.S. election campaign. The U.S. government said on Tuesday that travelers arriving from any of the 3 centers of the outbreak, Liberia, Sierra Leone, or Guinea, must fly into one of 5 airports that have enhanced screening in place. Britain is also screening arriving air and rail travelers. How do you feel? That's pretty much about how effective it is. Are you feeling pretty good there? Come on into our country. There's a bunch of preschoolers over here. They'd love to talk to you. I know it sounds crazy, and that was the wrong direction to go with it, but I mean, they might as well be doing that. Yeah, it's some interesting stuff. Anyway, the link for that article is down in the About tab, and let me tell you what, insurance is the last thing that's going to be on anybody's minds if this thing starts spreading like crazy. With the rate of death, with the infections, really, money is really not going to be a consideration for anybody. It's really not. So, and I have to believe, I've got another story that I'll be doing here in a moment, and I do have to believe that it is all tied in. I really do. I really think a lot of the stuff that's been going on is tied in. I still haven't really, all these FEMA coffins and all that stuff. I'm still struggling to make up my mind whether I feel like they knew this particular event was going to happen sometime back or what the deal is. But they've got the FEMA coffins are there. They've been there. They've been ready. And it all starts to make a little bit more sense now. But yeah, this insurance, I hope they really aren't so worried about insurance. So anyway, we got some crazy news. We always got crazy news. Should have named the show Crazy News. So here we go again. And it's going to try and play a video, and I'm going to probably stop it if it will let me. Okay. Cops investigate woman's beheading, son's train death as a murder-suicide. A New York college professor was beheaded and her body dumped outside an apartment building by her son, who later killed himself by stepping in front of a commuter train, police said. The woman has been tentatively identified as Patricia Ward, a 66-year-old assistant professor at Farmingdale State College on Long Island. Detective Lieutenant John Azata of the Nassau County Police told reporters Wednesday. She was decapitated shortly before 8 p.m. Tuesday by Derek Ward, 35, with a kitchen knife in the second-floor apartment they shared, Azata said. Patricia Ward had multiple stab wounds and a broken ribs, police said. Wow, I'm stumbling again. The son either carried or dragged his mother's body down the stairs, through the lobby, and left it on the street, Azata said. Azata. Her head was found 5 feet from her body, leaving some neighbors to think the gruesome scene was a Halloween stunt. I literally thought it was a prank, one resident said, according to the CNN affiliate WCBS. We saw the body on one side and saw the head on the other side. I thought everything was a prank. Less than a half hour later, after his mother's body was found, Derek Ward apparently jumped in front of a Long Island Railroad train heading east from Penn Station in Manhattan, police said. It appears that this is a murder suicide, as Zada said. Patricia Ward was an assistant professor of language arts at the college Long Island's Educational Opportunity Center, which helps high school students prepare for college. Patricia Ward was a member of the campus for 28 years. Patrick Calabria, the college vice president for institutional advancement and enrollment, said in a statement, "She was well known, well liked, and well respected. The campus is a very sad place today." Derek Ward, who was unemployed, had a history of psychiatric problems dating back 10 years. His condition exacerbated in the last years after the death of his maternal grandfather, according to Azada. Now, I want to point something out real quick. I bet he was on SSRIs, and I'm constantly talking about SSRIs and the dangers they pose and what they actually do to the brain chemicals. And I think there's a lot of reasons why we are seeing the increase of activity of these violent, crazy murders, and it's not just murders. You know, you've got disgruntled ex-boyfriends eating their ex-girlfriend's dog, and you know, I mean, it's just craziness. And I think it has to do with everything I've mentioned before. I think it has to do with all the chemicals in food, all the chemicals in water. I think it has to do with the medications. But I also have to think that it has to do with people are starting to pick up that things aren't right in the world. It's just, look, folks, we have a freak our body puts off, and the earth puts off that same frequency. And for some reason, the frequency in the earth just isn't there like it was. It's not as strong. It's not as present. It's what it was for whatever reason. And I'm telling you, that will really affect a person's psyche. It's a fact. You can look up everything I'm saying. Anyway, let's see where I'm at here. Police said there were no reported domestic incidents at the Ward home. Derek Ward had a 2003 arrest for criminal mischief and received a fine and probation, as Zada said. In 2006, Derek Ward was arrested for criminal possession of a 9mm Smith & Wesson handgun, as well as a drug charge, as Zada said. He received a 45-day sentence and 3 years probation. "It's insane," a Farmingdale resident said of the murder-suicide, according to WCBS. "You never think something like that is going to happen right outside your doorstep. The motive is under investigation. We did not know anything about her family life," Calabria told CNN. "We're all in shock." So, wow, you know, here you go again. Just one of these just acts of just wild violence. I mean, come on. To behead somebody, that, you know, and I you know, we have to ask there if there was Islamic ties and all that. And I'm sure, I know I've seen some information going around in the Hangout about that. I'm sure more and more will come out about that to come. But you typically don't just decide, hey, I'm going to chop this guy's head off. You know, it's not the easiest way to get the job done, you know? I mean, you have to be a pretty highly motivated individual if you just really have to go that route to achieve your goal. You know, I mean, I'm trying to put it in words that make any sense, because beheading people just doesn't make sense to me. You know, I don't know, just doesn't make sense to me. If you go that far, you got that there's a further agenda there. It's not just that you wanted that person dead or hurt or injured or maimed or whatever. If you go through that, because it's not that easy to behead somebody. At least from what I hear, I haven't personally done it, but I have heard that it's not really the easiest thing to do. That, you know, it's not something that you just, you know, like on movies or something, where unless you got a sword and real sharp sword or something, I imagine that's different. But a kitchen knife, you know, and I don't mean to really sound disgusting here, but it's going to. But you're going to be hacking at that thing for a while. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound disgusting, and I don't mean to sound so cold about it. But I mean, that's just the truth, and I don't know how else to put it. I always told you guys when I do these shows, I'm not going to cherry coat things. I'm not going to play around with words to make everything sound pretty and nice and rainbows and unicorns, and I'm not going to. I'm not going to, and that's the best way for me to get the point across. It's just not something that is just done. It's something that you have to have a clear intention and a clear motive and a clear mindset that you want to cut somebody's head off. I mean, it's a fact. So, yes, I do think it's a very valid question to be checking for any type of Islamic radical ties whatsoever. Just a fact. Just a fact. Wow. It's craziness. It is craziness. So I was telling you a bit ago about how I think this is tied in. I think this is tied in with the Ebola stuff, and I really do. U.S. Federal Reserve ends QE stimulus program, or programmy, if you're from the BBC. Sorry, I can't help myself sometimes. The U.S. Federal Reserve has announced it is ending its quantitative easing stimulus program begun in 2008. The Fed said it was confident the U.S. economic recovery would continue despite a global economic slowdown. Really? A global economic slowdown? Yeah, we're going off a cliff. The targets for inflation and reduction in unemployment were on track, the Fed said in a statement. Now, you got to realize these numbers to begin with. These unemployment numbers are absurd. These unemployment numbers are so played with before we get to see them. And a lot of people don't really understand that unemployment numbers don't count the people that like gave up looking for work, or the people, I just started the survival smokes business. Really don't have it kicked off yet. Hey, if you vape an electronic cigarette and need some juice, please check us out. Help me get going. I'm not just trying to plug myself, but I'm not considered in those unemployment numbers. I'm not getting an income of any kind, but I'm not in those numbers because I'm not receiving unemployment, period. I've never received unemployment in my life, which means I have never, ever, whether employed or not, well, obviously if not, I was employed, but I have never at any point in my life that I've been unemployed have been on the unemployment statistics because I've never received unemployment. I applied for it one time, was denied, and that was it. So you really need to understand that, and that's if they're giving you the honest numbers for that situation. Who knows if they are? We are not in a bed of roses here. So I just wanted to point that out. They always try and get us to think that we're doing better, and we're doing better, and no, we are not. If we were doing better, you wouldn't see all these major chain stores shutting down locations left and right by the hundreds, sometimes the thousands, shutting down locations. So if we were doing so much better, that would not be happening. The central bank, which also said it would not raise interest rates for a considerable time, has gradually cut back QE since last year. Sufficient strength. The statement suggested that although the job market is strengthening, it is still not back to normal, which is why interest rates are being held. The committee continues to see sufficient underlying strength in the broader economy to support ongoing progress toward maximum employment in a context of price stability, the Fed said. Analysts said the news was in line with expectations. The Fed's announcement is exactly what everyone expected, said Wayne Kaufman, chief market analyst at Phoenix Financial in New York. The Fed sees enough improvement in economic activity to end QE, but at the same time, it will keep low rates because it isn't yet seeing what it wants to see as far as inflation goes, he says. Several analysts seized on the Fed's comments about slack in the labor market. Previous policy statements have referred to significant underutilization of labor resources. Wednesday's statement left out the word significant. Paul Ashworth, chief U.S. economist at Capital Electronics, said, in light of the latest drop in the unemployment rate to below 6%, the dropping of significant could be significant. Brian Jacobson, wow, strategist at Wells Fargo Funds Management, added, I was pleasantly surprised that they removed the reference to there being significant underutilization of labor resources. I think it's a hat tip to some of the progress being made in the labor market. U.S. shares were down ahead of the statement and continued to drift lower after the news was announced. QE started in November 2008 amid the financial crisis and fears that the U.S. and the rest of the world might be facing another Great Depression. Yeah, you remember when they bailed the banks out and the cars manufacturers, and yeah. And they had those big parties celebrating how we bailed them out, and they got all the big golden parachute retirements, and yeah, and we're still printing money like crazy because I guess they don't have enough yet. Wow. The Fed's traditional ammunition cutting interest rates was running low. There was one more cut in the following month, taking the main interest rate target down to practically zero. So the central bank began buying financial assets and creating new money to pay for them. In total, the Fed has added $3.7 trillion worth of assets to its holdings, about an 8-fold increase. BBC Economics, wow, what is wrong with Read, Mike, read. Correspondent Andrew Walker said that although the U.S. economy is improving, the moderate unemployment rate does not tell the whole story. There are still many working part-time who would rather have longer hours, and many people not looking for jobs who are not counted as unemployed but would actually like to work, and long-term unemployment is still a serious problem. The end of QE will nonetheless be an important milestone in the repair of the U.S. economy, he said. Recent data has pointed to increased spending by consumers and businesses. Again, bogus. It's not true. However, the housing market is still struggling and pay is stagnant. There is concern about the long-term impact of the U.S. persistent low inflation, which risks undermining consumer spending as people delay purchases in the hope that prices will fall further. So let me go back up to the second to last. Okay, spending is not up. Spending is down, 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 down. Spending is very, very far down. I think it was Sears was one of the stores, and there is another major store that are shutting a bunch of locations even before the Christmas shopping season. You have to be, if you're in any kind of business like that, retail business, you really, really have to be hanging up the towel if you're closing businesses before the holiday shopping season. I mean, you must really be in some serious trouble. So don't buy the gibberish. And the housing market, by the way, not doing any better. Not doing any better. It's plateaued. The people that were actually able to keep their homes are still battling, but still pretty well keeping their homes. There's really not a lot of new home construction going, and those houses are still sitting there empty, all over. What is it? There's 6 empty houses for each homeless person. It's crazy. It's crazy. I really do not understand this whole money thing. I really don't. I really don't. I do understand how it's the root of all evil. And I do understand how it causes people to do very bad things to other people. Because I'll tell you what, not allowing somebody to have food and water and shelter, that's about the most despicable, inhumane thing you can do to anybody. Wow. And they always talk about the mark of the beast being an RFID chip or a social security card, or no, I'm sorry. We've all participated in the mark for quite some time. It's money. It's money. At least that's my belief. So anyway, yeah, we'll see. I think the market's going to fail, and the reason why they keep saying this is because we're based on a fiat currency that we're basically based on consumer confidence, and I call it BS. That's what I say. I say our money is based on BS, and see, they have to keep that BS going because if they don't, the market falls right then. Now, they need to have a scapegoat, and they don't want the scapegoat to come back on these banks and Wall Street folks and all that. So they're going to make it something like Ebola. They're going to make it some major event, and they're going to say, "Oh, well, our economy just can't handle it. Crash, boom, splat, and no more U.S. dollar." You can mark my word on that, and it's coming very, very quick. Here's an interesting story that I ran across today, and I've been saying this for, I couldn't really tell you how long I've been saying this. It's a pretty long article. I don't know if I'll read you the whole article, but I will read a good part to give you an idea. Report reveals wider tracking of mail in U.S. In a rare public accounting of its mass surveillance program, the United States Postal Service reported that it approved nearly 50,000 requests last year from law enforcement agencies and its own internal inspection unit to secretly monitor the mail of Americans for use in criminal and national security investigations. So remember this the next time you shop at one of, no, I won't go there. Just remember that. Check radiation levels for any sex toys. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. The number of requests contained in a 2014 audit of the surveillance program by the Postal Service Inspector General shows that the surveillance program is more extensive than previously disclosed and that oversight protecting Americans from potential abuse is lax. The audit, along with interviews and documents obtained by the New York Times under the Freedom of Information Act, offers one of the first detailed looks at the scope of the program, which has played an important role in the nation's vast surveillance effort since the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001. Let me tell you something. It's gone on since way longer than that. Because I remember the first big scares being the anthrax scares. People that remember those, raise your hands. They started, that I know of, that's when they started tracking every single piece of mail. And they probably started doing it before then. So, don't buy this that, oh, it's just been since 9/11. No, it's not. They've been monitoring phones ever since I know of the 80s, the early 80s. They've been recording all phone communications. That's no joke, folks. That's no joke. They just didn't have a quote-unquote reason big enough to be able to get the public to lay down like sheep and just take it. So now they throw everything on 9/11. Oh, well, we've got to watch the terrorists. Whatever. It's craziness. It's craziness. The number of requests contained in a 2004 audit. Did I read that already? Yes, I did. The audit interview, New York Times. Okay, I read that. The audit, which was reported on earlier by Politico, I know I'm real professional, and I found that in many cases the Postal Service approved requests to monitor an individual's mail without adequately describing the reason or having proper written authorization. Yeah, so, hey, man, go keep an eye on Billy Bob's mail. No, that's not what's going on. They are all getting checked all the time. Everything is getting tracked. Everything. Everything. I mean, they want to know absolutely every single aspect of our lives. It's a fact. And you get some people out there trying to say, oh, well, they're, it's these big companies buying it to advertise and all. No, it's not. It's not. They will in the meantime and make as much money from you as they can, but they want to know every little thing about every single person in this country. It's a fact. Because they got plans and we ain't part of them. And I'm telling you right now, I've seen my kids come home with these things from school. Um, just a paper that we're asking different things like what their fears were and stuff like that. I seen it. I refused to have anything to do with it. I would not have anything to do with it because they didn't just want to know what my child's fears were. They wanted to know what my fears were, what their mother's fears were, what their siblings' fears were. Really? Now, a lot of people probably didn't think a whole lot about that. I did. I thought a lot about it. And I thought my son was not going to be completing that assignment and they could talk to me about it. They don't need to know that stuff. They don't. Every aspect of our lives is being monitored. Whether we're talking on a phone, no matter what we're doing, whether we send an email, everything about our children are being recorded. Everything. It's not tinfoil hat stuff, folks. This is truth. This is reality. I just wish people would understand this. And then I wish they would actually get up and do something. It's not about whether or not you do something wrong. It's about your freedom. Period. And if you're an atheist, well, fine. You're free from your toaster. I don't know. That's fine. Stand up for your freedom. I myself, I'm free from God. God is what gives me freedom, not the country. My freedom is inalienable, not constitutional, even though the Constitution supports my inalienable. I mean, we've got to stand up. I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, I hate to bust anybody's bubble or break the bad news, but it's already too late. It is far, far, far too late. But at least maybe we can get out alive. But we have to act now. If we don't, we're not going to get out alive. That's a fact. It's a fact. The article's down in the About tab, the link to it. You can read it all if you'd like. It's old news to me. At least now it's coming out in the mainstream. So one more tinfoil hat can get checked off the list. Wow. So here's some important news. I figured I would close the show with this. Vulgar message mysteriously posted to traffic sign. Yeah, I know. Terrible, ain't it? It wasn't me either. It wasn't me. I was home. I promise. A possible hack attack that MoDOT is calling a mystery. MoDOT says someone placed an electronic message board with a vulgar message overnight, and I didn't think it was that bad, along Highway 367 northbound at Lindbergh. Several Fox 2 viewers snapped pictures of the message before it was taken down. Here's the mystery. MoDOT officials say the sign did not belong to them. And I'm thinking it belongs to a private contractor, road contractor or something. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe somebody drug it from another state and stuck it there. I don't know. This is the fun stuff. I'm sorry. I cherish this kind of stuff. This stuff makes my day. So I'm sure, you can figure out what it said. Be safe. And, yeah. So I just thought I'd share that for you for a good laugh. We always got a lot of bad news, about a lot of ugly stuff going on and all that. And I just thought this was humorous. Call me terrible, but, with people being beheaded, with countries trying to just strip us of all of our liberties and leave us wide open, whether it be, with borders and immigration, or whether it be, which I'm fine with immigration as long as it's done the way it's supposed to be done. And, leaving us open for Ebola and just all of our national, everything. This is laughable. This is fun stuff. This is probably stuff, had I been maybe about 22 years younger, I would be out there doing myself. to give you a little idea of my past. But yeah, they didn't have all this neat technology stuff back there. Back then, when I was in high school, a 386 computer was the hottest thing on the market. So that should date me just a little bit. Anyway, that is what I have for you tonight. I appreciate y'all being here. God bless you. May He walk with you. Always be one with your spirit. I do love you all. And remember, always, always, be safe, bitches. Have a good night.